James Garner's life did not open with red carpets or flashing cameras. Long before audiences came to recognize his easy smile and steady presence, he was simply a boy born into hardship. He entered the world as James Scott Bumgar on April 7, 1928, in Norman, Oklahoma, at a time when the United States was reeling from a Great Depression. Norman was a modest town, and like much of the country, it felt the crushing weight of economic uncertainty. From the beginning, life tested him. When he was just 5 years old, his mother died, leaving behind an absence that never truly faded. The loss carved a quiet ache into his childhood, one that shaped his understanding of sorrow and resilience. His father, Weldon, struggled to hold the family together as best he could, but those were unforgiving years. Stability was elusive, and young James often moved between relatives' homes. Instead of enjoying a carefree youth, he found himself adapting to change and learning how to fend for himself. He worked small jobs to help with expenses, taking on responsibilities that many children his age never had to face. There was nothing glamorous about his upbringing, no early sign that Hollywood would one day call his name. What those years did offer, however, was a deep well of empathy. Experiencing loss and instability firsthand gave him an instinctive sensitivity to other people's pain. That emotional truth would later become one of his greatest strengths as an actor. When viewers watched him on screen, they did not see artificial emotion. They felt something lived in and sincere, as if he understood the human condition from the inside out. Before acting ever entered his plans, service shaped his character. At 16, restless and determined to earn a living, he left school and joined the Merchant Marine. The decision reflected both necessity and curiosity. He wanted to work and see more of the world than Oklahoma could offer. Soon after, he enlisted in the United States Army and served during the Korean War. The battlefield confronted him with realities far harsher than anything he had known before. He was wounded twice in combat and awarded 2 Purple Hearts for his bravery. Yet medals could not fully capture what he endured. War etched itself into his memory, leaving lessons about fear, endurance, and the fragile line between life and death. For Garner, courage was never something theatrical or exaggerated. It was not about posturing or bravado. It was about survival and protecting others when circumstances demanded it. The quiet strength he learned in uniform later flowed into his performances. He knew that true bravery did not roar, it endured. This understanding set him apart from actors who relied on exaggerated displays of toughness. He recognized that heroism often belongs to ordinary people who press forward despite their fear. When the war ended, he did not immediately chase an acting career. Instead, he returned home and tried to find his place in civilian life. He worked as a carpenter, a salesman, and even a model, searching for something that felt right. None of those paths seemed to fit. Then, almost by accident, opportunity knocked. While helping a friend rehearse lines for a production, Garner caught the eye of a talent agent who noticed his natural composure and understated charm. He had no formal acting training, no dramatic schooling to rely on, yet he possessed something rare: authenticity. He began landing small roles, observing seasoned performers, and learning on the job. Rather than constructing a persona, he simply allowed himself to be present. That honesty translated powerfully to the screen. His breakthrough came in 1957 with the television series Maverick. Cast as Brett Maverick, a witty gambler with a clever tongue and a fundamentally good heart, Garner introduced audiences to a different kind of Western hero. The show stood apart from traditional Westerns by weaving humor and intelligence into its storytelling. Much of that unique tone stemmed from Garner's natural ease. He did not present a stiff or untouchable figure. Instead, he portrayed a man who could outsmart opponents, crack a joke, and still stand up for what was right. At the time, Randolph Scott reigned as one of Hollywood's most iconic Western stars. Known for portraying stoic, serious cowboys who rarely displayed vulnerability, Scott represented an earlier era's image of masculinity. His characters were solid as stone, rarely betraying doubt or emotion. Inevitably, comparisons arose between Scott and the rising newcomer. Some critics labeled Garner the modern successor to the cowboy tradition Scott had helped define. Yet Garner never intended to imitate him. He respected Scott deeply, but believed the genre could evolve. Garner felt that audiences were ready for heroes who smiled, who joked, and who occasionally questioned themselves. He believed strength did not vanish when a man admitted uncertainty or expressed emotion. In later interviews, he clarified that while he admired Scott's work, he did not aspire to replicate those rigid archetypes. He preferred characters who might fall short but then rise again. To him, that resilience was the essence of courage. His perspective did not tear down the past. It offered a new dimension. It signaled a gradual shift in storytelling, away from flawless myths and toward relatable humanity. As his fame grew, Garner remained remarkably grounded. His relaxed grin and conversational acting style won over viewers quickly. During the 1960s, he established himself as one of Hollywood's most dependable and versatile leading men. He transitioned smoothly between television and film, rare accomplishment at the time. In romantic comedies such as The Thrill of It All and Move Over Darling, he shared the screen with Doris Day, bringing warmth and subtle humor to the roles. In more dramatic projects like The Great Escape, where he acted alongside Steve McQueen, he demonstrated that his charm could coexist with intensity. No matter the genre, he approached his characters with honesty. He did not rely on flashy theatrics. Instead, he grounded each performance in believable emotion. Audiences felt as though they knew him personally. He seemed less like a distant celebrity and more like a trusted neighbor or friend. Hollywood success, however, carried its own pressures. The demands of filming schedules and studio politics strained his health and patience. Yet the 1970s introduced a fresh chapter in his career with the Rockford Files. As Jim Rockford, a private investigator who preferred wit over violence, Garner once again challenged the traditional image of masculinity. Rockford was clever and relatable, often navigating trouble with humor rather than brute force. The role earned Garner an Emmy Award, but it also took a physical toll. Performing many of his own stunts resulted in injuries that caused persistent back pain. Even so, he rarely complained. He valued professionalism and believed in fulfilling his commitments. Off-screen, he showed similar resolve. Garner did not hesitate to challenge studios when he believed contracts were violated. For him, fairness outweighed convenience. His willingness to stand up for himself reflected the same sense of integrity he brought to his roles. In his personal life, Garner placed family above fame. He met Lois Clark at a party in 1956, and within weeks they were inseparable. After just 16 days of knowing each other, they married. To some, the speed seemed reckless, but to Garner, it felt certain. Lois practiced Judaism, and though he was not religious, he respected her beliefs wholeheartedly. He embraced her daughter Kim as his own and later welcomed their daughter Greta, affectionately called Gigi. In an industry notorious for brief romances, their marriage endured nearly 6 decades. Garner often credited its longevity to daily kindness and genuine friendship rather than grand romantic gestures. As he aged, his career continued to flourish. In the 1980s, his role in Murphy's Romance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, reminding audiences of his enduring talent. Years later, in 2004, he appeared in The Notebook, portraying an elderly husband caring tenderly for his wife as she battled memory loss. The performance resonated deeply, echoing his real-life devotion to Lois. When James Garner passed away on July 19, 2014, at the age of 86, tributes flowed from colleagues and fans worldwide. He was remembered not only as a gifted performer, but as a gentleman whose decency never wavered. Lois survived him by 7 years, holding close the memories of their early days together in a modest home filled with love. To her, he was never simply a star. He was Jim. Reflecting on his thoughts about Randolph Scott reveals much about Garner himself. He admired Scott's discipline, privacy, and unwavering code of conduct. At the same time, he gently expanded the image of the Western hero by adding warmth and vulnerability. He honored tradition without being confined by it. Ultimately, James Garner left behind more than a collection of memorable roles. He reshaped the idea of what a leading man could be. He demonstrated that heroism does not demand spectacle or invulnerability. It can exist in empathy, loyalty, humor, and steadfast honesty. When asked about his legacy, he answered with humility, saying he had simply done his best and tried to stay true to who he was. In that quiet declaration lies the essence of his life. He proved that authenticity is its own kind of strength, and that genuine character outlasts fame.